Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2026, directed by Sebastian Vinicic, and this film is called Evil Dead Burn. So Evil Dead Burn is about our main character. He recently lost his brother in an accident, a car accident, after he had an argument with his wife. So his sister-in-law, this main character's sister-in-law, she has a lot of guilt. She believes it's her fault, and so she wants to go to Paris in order to get her thoughts together to deal with her new reality. But the parents, the grief-stricken parents, they want to keep the family together as much as they can because they see it as the best way to honour their loved one. So the parents want everyone to go to this rundown mansion that belongs to them, but they gave the mansion to the main character, but the main character didn't have enough time to maintain it. And so they want to go back and relive the memories as best they can, but there's a lot of animosity between the family because there's a lot of blaming going on. So the parents are blaming the wife, the parents are also blaming the main character, and so there's a lot of finger pointing that is not really helping anyone. But what they don't realise is that's going to be the least of their problems because evil has followed them to this mansion, and evil is about to unleash and turn the night into a bloody fight for survival. So what happens from that point on? Something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Evil Dead Burn. Although I'm not a fanatical Evil Dead fan, I am a fan. I can appreciate the fact that it is very important to the horror genre. I can appreciate the fact that it's very, very entertaining, and it really has made a name for itself. And so I especially love the remake movies of the Evil Dead franchise. So the Evil Dead remake, Evil Dead Rise, and now Evil Dead Burn. So the first two of those movies I saw in the cinemas, and I thought they were great horror cinema experiences, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to watch this one in the cinemas, and so I had to wait until it was available on streaming, but I had my fingers crossed that it was going to be worth the wait. And so expectations were very high. Not only is it an Evil Dead film, but it's also Sebastian Vinicic's first entry into this franchise. Now, Sebastian Vinicic is a French director. He created a French horror film that I absolutely loved called Infested, that had spiders in it. It wasn't a gory film, but it was a very psychologically unnerving film. And so I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So having a really fun French director in a really fun franchise, I thought, what could go wrong? So fingers crossed that it was going to be absolutely fantastic. And after finally watching Evil Dead Burn, I can say, although it is very entertaining, I would say it's probably the weakest of the three of the recent movies, for reasons that I'll go into a little bit later. But what I really liked about Evil Dead Burn is that this movie felt like a new wave French extremity. You could tell that a French director was behind this because it's really, really nasty. So this is the nastiest of the three, and so be very careful of that. But if you're going into an Evil Dead film, you're expecting carnage, and carnage is what this movie really delivers. The practical gore effects I thought were absolutely fantastic, and it really shocked me as to how far and how graphic this movie actually gets. So there are shocking moments in Evil Dead Rise and the Evil Dead, the first one, but this movie really ups the ante as far as shocking an audience, and it never loses sight of the entertainment value. And so, although it's shocking, if you're a sicko, you're going to really love all the carnage that is being besieged upon this family. I thought the setting of this rundown mansion was great. It had a very cold and unforgiving feeling to it, and that cold and unforgiving feeling helped amplify the sense of violence and amplify the sense of urgency. There's set pieces in this movie that I thought were really well choreographed, and I thought the suspense levels were really good because the anticipation of something really bad happening and what was actually about to come onto this mansion, the bracing for impact was always there. When the impact finally hits you, this is where it just goes balls to the wall crazy. It's a crazy movie. It's very frenetic in its pacing, and I definitely feel as though a lot of Evil Dead fans are going to really like this. There's a lot of blood, and there are moments here and there, sporadic moments, that actually made me feel as though I was watching an Evil Dead film. But unfortunately, this is my issue with this movie. A standalone film, this is great. This, as I said, it felt like a new wave French extremity, but as far as an addition to a very famous franchise, I just felt as though it didn't have enough Evil Dead feeling in it. And so it's very hard to explain without giving anything away, but I just felt as though this was a standalone film. I just never felt as though I was fully engrossed in the Evil Dead lore. The Necronomicon is in this movie, but it's not in it very long, and I know that you can only use the Necronomicon so much before it does become a little bit tiresome, but I would have liked just the Evil Dead flavour just to be laid on a little bit more. I thought the characters in this movie were a little bit of a letdown. I never really gravitated to anyone, but again, you don't really have to gravitate to characters in an Evil Dead film. but you just want to see, as I said, the carnage. The movie doesn't have as much humour. Now, again, I can appreciate the fact that this is going in a different direction. It's going in a more, grotesque and violent direction. But again, the Evil Dead flavour was lacking, because in Evil Dead you have shocking moments, but moments that alleviate the pressure through some really dark humour. But this movie, there was humour here and there, but again, it just never really felt like it was consistent enough to be in another addition to an Evil Dead franchise. And so that was my issue with this movie. Standalone, it would have been better, but if you're expecting a typical Evil Dead, I just felt as though this one was slightly weaker, because it does go down a different path a little bit too much, and it steers away from the lore that made Evil Dead what it is. And so that was my gripe with this movie, but pushing that aside, it's very, very nasty. It has some really good set pieces of suspense. Psychologically, it's there, and it's just a showcase of how good this director can be. And as a result of all that, I'm going to give Evil Dead Burn 3 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Next, thank you for watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.